Before you start throwing tomatoes at me for the thumbnail, just know that I don't mean it. The Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus is one of the most powerful animals in the franchise and is my favorite dinosaur as a whole overall, with him being able to snap a bull T-Rex's neck with little difficulty. With that being said, there are some Spinosaurs that would quite frankly one-shot him. Throughout cinema there are not a lot of Spinosaurus shown. There are some, like the one from Planet Dinosaur, Primeval, and as previously mentioned, the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus. Unlike my previous video that focuses on the strongest T-Rexes in cinema history, there just isn't much Spinosauruses shown in movies or series compared to the T-Rex, which is why this video is titled Entertainment or Media History. Now with this, we can bring some dinosaurs from games. Some of these guys can take literal rocket launchers to the face, and others can slap a Carcharodontosaurus into submission. By the way, before we go any further, if you guys enjoy anything prehistoric, or just theories about animals in general, then I think this channel is for you, so watch until the end and hit that subscribe button. You can always unsubscribe if it's not for you. Alright, with that shameless plug over, let's get right into the strongest sailboys in media history. We have seen a Spinosaurus tank a plane, we have seen others tank some bullets, but how many have you seen being able to take a rocket launcher to the face in rounds from a semi-automatic shotgun to the head? Well, Spike can, this guy comes from the nostalgic game called Jurassic the Hunted. I'm sure even if you didn't have the game, you've seen it being played by creators such as the Gaming Beaver. The game is about a Navy SEAL called Craig Dillon, who is sent to recover a doctor that went missing during a mission along with some of his buddies. But the plane crash lands on an island filled with dinosaurs and other prehistoric fauna. All of the dinosaurs in the game are pretty hardcore, like the giant raptors that are capable of taking some rounds from an automatic rifle and scorpions the size of a lion. Spike first appears after the red T-Rex is finally defeated in a boss fight, and as a child I fell in love with the model. It looks more like a dragon than an actual dinosaur. Spike is also one of the largest Spinosaurs on the list, with some of the higher estimated placing this guy at around 180 feet long and 47 feet tall. But just to be safe, I'll say he's around 120 feet long and 35 feet tall and more than 40 tons, which is already way larger than Jurassic Park's Spinosaurus. And just like Jurassic Park's Spinosaurus, Spike is also a T-Rex killer. In one of the most hilarious gaming moments ever, after Spike is defeated in the first battle, he respawns with full health near the forest and fights a giant T-Rex. However, this fight was kind of disappointing, considering it's literally just a fight in Jurassic Park 3 but less impressive. Spike is able to tank a RPG directly to the chest, which is insane even for something of his size, because even if you had skin as tough as steel, the energy transferred from the projectile would reach your internal organs and you'd still explode. So the fact that after one shot of that, he doesn't show any sign of damage is remarkable. To put into perspective as to just how impressive this is, a RPG shot to this guy does around 5% or less damage to his overall health. He can also take direct face and headshots from semi-automatic shotguns and just shake it off. While the fight is way less impressive than Jurassic Park 3's fight, Spike kills the T-Rex much more easily and shorter. He does also snap the T-Rex's neck, but he barely had to move his hands, indicating an incredible amount of muscle power within his arms. So they are 2 rounds, and after 2 rounds of being shot at with guns, RPGs, hand grenades and fighting a T-Rex, he still ends up surviving at the end, where we see him teleported at the end on an old ship and his eyes open. Most of the dinosaurs on the island are thought to have come through from different time periods through portals, and it's a theory that Spike was no exception, with him coming into the present from Cretaceous Africa. This is supported by the fact that for the time the scientist was missing, he looks a lot older than he should, indicating that he too may have traveled through time. If this is the case, it would mean that almost all Spinosaurus in the Jurassic the Hunted universe are that strong. Or Spike is simply an exception for his species. Even for an animal from a game, being to tank and output so much damage is impressive. However, it's more impressive when an animal from an actual documentary shows feats that should not be possible for any natural animal. This one deserves to be a Monsterverse video if I am going to be honest, and to this day is a laughingstock when it comes to dinosaur documentaries. The Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus had more accuracy than this thing, and it's meant to be fictional. I'm sure you were all expecting him. The Monsters Resurrected Spinosaurus is the most insane looking representation of a real life dinosaur I've ever seen. What the studio was thinking before making this is unknown, because at the time the paleo-accurate versions of the Spinosaurus were known. So the going theory I have had in the last decade since I was a child is that someone slipped crack in the producer's coffee. As bad as it is in terms of representing the real thing, you've got to admit it does kinda look badass. with the exaggerated spikes on the head, oversized arms and jaws that look like it came from Dinocroc. In the documentary, the Spino is stated to be around 48 feet long and 8 tons, but actually when comparing the models, this thing is at the bare minimum 75 feet and at least 18 tons in weight, which would be accurate if it was 2010. And the people saying, but the documentary said it was 8 tons, so it's 8 tons are the same people who believe chocolate milk comes from brown cows. The 200 plus foot long estimates a lot of people put out are very exaggerated, I agree, but I would believe anything between 65 to 90 feet long. Look at the size of this dude compared to a semi-truck. The standard length for a semi is around 72 feet long, and what's more is this guy compared to a 7-ton Carcharodontosaurus. So size out of the way, this guy has some insane weaponry. I don't think there is any other Spinosaurus with claws more wicked than this guy. These things are just dense sickles, and his head is nothing like an actual Spinosaurus that has a rosette. This guy just has steel daggers and a very dense jaw. The fight with the Spinosaurus and Carcharodontosaurus in Planet Dinosaurs was close, but the one in Monsters Resurrected was just an execution. This Spinosaurus pimp slapped a 7-ton theropod and insta-killed it, like he died simultaneously from blunt force and blood loss. We can literally see his jaw snap. Then there was the Sarcosuchus disrespect. He ran his claws through the 30-foot long crocodilomorph's body like it was butter. I mean, there was no resistance, not one stutter, just a straight movement over and over again. I'll tell you this, if the Sarcosuchus in Planet Dinosaur tried to walk up to the Monsters Resurrected one the same way he did to the one in Planet Dinosaur, he wouldn't have made it back to the water alive. The guy is also capable of taking on sauropods, which again is crazy considering this was meant to be an educational documentary. The most disrespected animal in the documentary, however, is the Rugops, which by the way is upscaled to 30 feet. We see the Spinosaurus snatch them up the way you snatch your phone when someone starts going into your gallery, and we have seen the Spinosaurus chase them down the same way we chase our younger siblings after they snitched. But the Rugops do end up getting their revenge, but in a lucky and stupid way at the same time. Now some brain-dead Rexy fans have said that this guy is Rexy fodder after being brought down by a pack of Rugops. Mind you, this is the same Rexy that always gets beat up by any theropod her size or slightly larger. So I'm not sure what they think would happen if she fought a roided up Spinosaurus double her weight. The reason he was brought down by the Rugops pack is the same reason the Spinosaurus in Planet Dinosaur was brought down. They literally say that the Spinosaurus was weakened significantly from lack of food, water, and constantly on the move. Basically, he was exhausted and tried to intimidate the medium-sized dinosaurs off their kill, but they tipped him over and ended up making things worse for him. If a real-life megatheropod was tipped over directly on its side, the internal bleeding would be significant. Now imagine an 18+ ton bipedal animal falling on its side and breaking not just its ribs but also its sail, which the documentary says is directly fused to its spine, so there was a good chance it was paralyzed after the fall. While this Spinosaurus may be a kaiju in terms of design, the next one is a kaiju in terms of its massive size. Back to gaming, we have a Spinosaurus from one of the most famous and, dear heavens, most poorly optimized, pocket draining, RTX 7090 super requiring games out there. Ark Survival evolved. Well, now Survival ascended because of the upscaled graphics that my 3070 fights to play every time I turn it on. Ark is a survival game that requires you to build things and tame creatures to beat map bosses, so you can ascend to another map. Some of the Ark creatures are much smaller than they are supposed to be, while others are Kong Skull Island kaiju sized, such as the Giganotosaurus. Well, in this game, the Spinosaurus is one of the oversized ones, and 70 tons and almost 100+ feet long, it's by far the largest Spinosaurus on the list. Similarly to Spike, Ark's Spinosaurus can tank a few projectiles and bullets, but not to the extent Spike can, well, in its base level that is, because a high level or mutated Spinosaurus is one of the strongest creatures in vanilla Ark, and this becomes even more so once it gets its hydration buff. Its hydration buff gives it a significant boost in speed and allows it to deal more damage. Even the slightest bit of water can activate this buff. Basically, if this guy stepped in ankle deep water, he is gonna geek out. If we were to take this guy out of the game and place him into the real world, few if anything would be able to stand up to him. At 70 tons, the only other animal larger than him in real life would be the fin and blue whale. If he were to be placed in the Jurassic franchise, no amount of plot armor is saving Rexy, unless she obtains magic and casts testicular torsion or something, and well, every other theropod in getting slapped into the stratosphere. And it would put the Mosasaurus at one-shot the hybrid in its place, since this guy is at home in the water and is able to dive deep into Ark's oceans and withstand the pressure of the deep. Not to mention he can fight quite well when fully submerged with little effort. so I don't think he would have any issues whatsoever facing the first Jurassic World's Mosasaurus that's around 40 tons. However, if we use the one from Dominion, then it gets a bit tricky considering the estimates place this guy at around 80 tons, which to be fair isn't that much larger than the Spinosaurus, so in my opinion that would be 50-50, but let me know in the comments who you think would win. Another advantage this guy would have is his knockback. When Ark's Spinosaurus does its bipedal stance, it's able to attack using its claws, and this is the main reason it's able to win a one-on-one with the Rex. Despite the Rex having more health and a higher damage output, basically the Spinosaurus constantly knocks its opponent back before they can get a hit in, but sometimes the opponent manages to land a lucky hit in, so even at parity this hack would be very useful in fighting other dinosaurs unless the other dinosaur managed to catch its hand, but to be honest it still would have another hand free. This guy may be massive in terms of size, but he isn't nearly as massive as the impact the final candidate has had on millions across the globe. You guys know he had to be here. Despite the thumbnail, this dude just couldn't not be on the list. The Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus is not just the most famous Spinosaurus in film, it's also one of the most famous dinosaurs period, mainly for being the first ever T-Rex killer in the Jurassic franchise. To be honest, at first, I considered putting Primeval's Spinosaurus, but based on its overall build, frame and feats, I quickly changed my mind. In the Jurassic Park movie, this guy was around 48 feet long and 8 tons, which easily made him the largest carnivore on the island. But before that, this guy still had impressive feats. He was an illegal project made by Henry Wu, and was constantly experimented on and abused. But when the researchers packed up and left the island, they also left him alone in the facility. At this time, he would have been around 15 to 20 feet long, which is a decent size, and he somehow managed to break out. However, he had to compete with the other larger theropods on the island, and even medium-sized theropods like the Ceratosaurus were now a threat. But by far the biggest threat would have been the raptors on Sorna, who, in the events of Jurassic Park 3, populated different sections of the island, but despite all of that, he managed to survive to reach a massive size. This guy also has some insane durability. His sail, which is supposed to be the most fragile part of him, took a direct hit from a plane and didn't show any signs of damage later on. And he is able to take multiple bites from a bull T-Rex, despite having a much thinner neck in comparison. He was not just able to tank the hits, but also retaliate and hold this bulkier dinosaur in place and snap its neck. He was also able to rip a plane in half and then further rip it apart with little effort. And the very same spiked dinosaur fences meant to keep in large dangerous dinosaurs like him were shattered once he got a runner start. In the events of Camp Cretaceous, when Manticore brings him to the worst possible habitat you can have for a semi-aquatic animal, he is more than 50 feet long and 10 tons, which is the largest theropod in the franchise, possibly besides Zeb. This guy is able to smash through canyon walls to get to prey, and is able to once again fight a large T-Rex and win. It took 2 Tyrannosaurs at the end of the film to finally beat him. And again, I don't know how this guy does not damage his sail, because this time he literally rolls over and his sail isn't even slightly bent. But after all of that, they did manage to massacre my boy. I mean, it is an interesting new take on the franchise, making the Spinosaurus paleo accurate, but I kinda wanted him to return. I'm sure every new Jurassic sequel since the first Jurassic World movie has had hundreds of videos titled, "This is why the Spinosaurus is coming in the new Jurassic World movie," and in the end, he is never in the film. But even if he is never shown in another film, his legacy as the first T-Rex slayer in the franchise will live on. The dinosaur that can take a hit from a plane, bust through fences like these, and snap an adult T-Rex's neck with ease. If I had to put him up against all of the newest Jurassic franchise theropods, I'd say he beats all, except for the Indominus, probably due to her weaponry and quick thinking. She would probably try to target the sail, but to be honest, if that thing can take a hit from a plane and stand strong, I don't know if she could, but in all seriousness, she would most likely win, and Zeb would be a close fight too. As for Rexy, well, it's Rexy. Alright folks, that is going to be it for this video. Let me guys know if you agree with the list and who you would replace in my selection. I know there are other Spinosaurs that could have made it on the list, but similar to the Rex video, I'm going to do a part 2, but it's not for now. With that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.